Welcome, everyone. This is the Silver Crow Method podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about when the world hits hard, burnout, and shared nervous systems, and caring for each other in these times. I'm Melanie Stewart,
And I'm
and this
Mike.
is, Michael Goedeker from the Silver Crow Method podcast and the social network Shaman.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think we'll start off. Welcome to the Silver Crow Method podcast. This is, I believe, the third or fourth episode that we've done in the series. I hope everyone enjoyed it so far. In this specific podcast, we explore the lived experience of modern stress and burnout. And we also talk about the nervous system's role in how we navigate that ever demanding world that we live in, especially the digital world where we're faced with information 24 by 7, pretty much drinking data and information through a fire hose, I believe the comparison is. And what that type of continuity of information means to show up for ourselves and others with clarity and calmness, trying to regulate the nervous system while we deal with all these things around us. And it's interesting because just recently we had a lot more examples of why, when we talk about in the Silver Crow method and the podcast itself and the different stories and videos that you may have seen on Facebook and on Instagram that we post every other day, sometimes a few days after another. We talk about regulating the nervous system, talking about remaining stoic and controlling our emotions. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But today's episode hits really heavy, but it's important. And we're going to use this opportunity to reflect on real events. Among those real events, without trying to hitch on and to use that in a negative way, the shooting of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good by a federal law enforcement officer in Minneapolis. One of the things that comes to mind, besides all the emotion around this and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that a lot of people have during events like this, which is understandable, is that this incident and incidents like it shake people's sense of safety. They ignite grief across different communities, and they leave many of us feeling very unsettled, anxious, or even burned out by the relentless tension of the world that we currently live in. All these different things that are happening in real time and are hitting us from many different sides creates a lot of pressure on our nervous system. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I find myself just kind of cringing every
Mm,
day when I
yeah.
see the news. It's kind of like, what is the next surprise cake and what's going to jump out of it today?
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm very careful about how much news I let in. I let in maybe about 10 minutes worth of news in the morning, and it's flavored with comedy so that I can, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't watch it all day long. And then I focus in on regulating my nervous system so that I can be clear for the day, so that I can carry on with being the best version of myself that I can be for myself and others.
Yeah, and that's an important point that you were talking about, clearing yourself. I mean, that's something that I do twice a day in the morning and in the evening. So I have these different movements that I teach on retreats, on one-to-ones, and also on different summits and sessions that we offer throughout the year, is how to use different techniques, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine, regular therapy, or other things to regulate the nervous system. And I think that's
Hmm.
important, specifically in times like these when we have so much of this stuff going on. And it's very easy to sink into some kind of dark space. And when we do
Yes.
that, it doesn't really serve us. It doesn't serve our communities, our families, the people that we live with and we impact. So the emphasis here, just like you said, is on grounding. But then the question is always, well, how do you ground? What are the aspects and the details to that? And we'll talk a little bit about some of that in today's session. Of
Mhm.
course, we go through these things more in depth through teaching when you go through the courses, when you go through the one-on-ones, and also the retreats and stuff that we're planning for this year. But we'll get to that when that time is right. So we want to be clear, though. So our focus isn't on taking political sides or fanning anger, because I think that doesn't make sense. That's more negative energy. And, people are justified in having the opinions that they have. I'm not going to tell them what's right and what's wrong. But I am very careful about whatever opinions or decisions you have about a specific topic. It's important to try to remain stoic if possible, because that gives us better options, right? So when you sink into this emotional state, it's very difficult to think logically. And sometimes when you have situations like this, where it's very easy to get sucked into these emotions, it's very important to keep that focus and that grounding. And that becomes much harder for us because we're human beings. We feel, we have emotions, and we're
Mhm.
sympathetic for the people and the suffering around us. But the question is, how do we do that? Instead, what we want to speak about on what it feels like to be a nervous system in a world stacked with these different types of stressors, the fear and the conflict, and more importantly, how that reality can contribute to what we experience as burnout, right? So,
Absolutely.
so today is more about processing, regulating, grounding for ourselves and for each other. I'm not saying the events are not important, they are. I'm not saying the discussions that we have around them are not important, they absolutely are. And we need to process these things in a way, shape, or form that's right for us, that's in right relationship to the web of life and the things that we believe in, and also the people and the families and communities that are affected. So I'm by no means saying that's not important, it absolutely is. So let's dive into a little bit more. It's easy to see, for instance, someone like Renee, who was a poet, a mom, and a neighbor, and to feel that pain and that confusion and grief. She wasn't just a headline for all of us. She was someone with a life. She had relationships, and she had a meaning in the world as an individual, as a person, as a living being.
Mm. Yeah.
And, you know, when we encounter stories like this, especially the ones with conflicting narratives, our nervous
Mhm.
systems register ambiguity as essentially danger. Our
Mhm.
fight and flight pathways, they start to kick in. Our hearts start to race. Our minds start spinning out of control. And if this keeps happening, tweet after tragic story, it doesn't just affect us once. It layers stress into our system again and again and again. And these are the things that are really, really dangerous, and how social media, when we don't filter and when we don't regulate these things and ground ourselves when we're using
Mhm.
social media, become much more important. I mean, I've written different books on this topic, why it makes sense to regulate ourselves and to be very cautious of social media. But I think that's how burnout builds.
Mhm.
And the dangerous thing about burnout is you don't really notice it in the moment when it starts to build. You just start to notice burnout when it's almost too late or when it is too late, when you're already suffering those consequences. Like, it's not always from our own day to day workload, but it's more of like the emotional and the social weight of things that are keeping on compacting on us day after day, being human in times like these. It makes it really difficult.
Yeah, so what we want the listeners to hear, without judgment, is that we all have a nervous system, and our nervous systems are tuned in and listening to the world all the time. And when the world is loud and traumatic, your body doesn't stop to ask you personally if you've experienced it. It's just reacting because our body and brain do not realize that what could be happening outside of us isn't really happening to us personally. So there's that. And that can be very exhausting. And seeing all the things in the news all the time is very exhausting. And it's why social media debates make our jaw clench and why our stomach feels tight after scrolling headlines. It's there, it's clickbait, it's meant to make us stop. Our nervous systems are built for protection and not for processing these multiple waves of emotion stimuli without the rest. And this is one of the ways that burnout shows up as emotional exhaustion, irritability, difficulty concentrating, feeling overwhelmed without clear cause. You might not even realize that your body is in a state of alert until you slow down enough to notice it. I mean, I've been in a position where I've been exhausted And then I get hit with a barrage of, phone calls, emails, texts, and they're all overstimulating. And then you don't realize it, but it pushes you over the edge. And then the way you react to the world outside of you becomes very difficult. You're not operating from your clear self.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's when um, the nervous system regulation becomes very important.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the different types of medicines, especially the grounding, that's one of the most important aspects of when you share medicine. Whether it's working on the meditations, we usually prepare ourselves in the space before we do the meditations or yoga or
Mhm,
the different exercises, breathing exercises. And when you do journey work, when you do auricular therapy and other things, you prepare that space and make sure that it's welcoming, that it's nice and warm, and that you don't attach to a lot of the things that are there if there's negative energy, and also detecting that negative energy. When you're in a constant state of where the nervous system isn't reset and you haven't done the grounding, it also makes it much
mhm,
more difficult to do healing work with people too. So even as practitioners, it's very important to do grounding, not just for every normal human being out there that consumes any type of news or media or social media, right? So the interesting thing is when things like this happen, and this was very tragic, this human
mhm,
tragedy unfolds, compassion is a resource. But the issue with that is compassion is not infinite. There's a limitation to it, especially when you're burned out. You know,
mhm,
and when you talk about these burned out nervous systems, can actually dull compassion because you keep on compounding these things and you don't
mhm,
get out of that fight and flight. It makes it harder
mhm,
to connect with people, to respond kindly, or to show up to people that really need that. And that's one of those aspects where you start getting those alarm signs. It's like, okay, well, I'm usually a very compassionate person. I'm
mhm,
very grounded. So why this thing is affecting me quite a bit? Why am I not reacting in a way that's normal for me? And those are some of the warning signs too that we start to pick up on when we notice them, right? The other thing
yeah.
is, let's say that again. When our nervous systems are overloaded, we don't just feel tired. Our empathy can get blunted, and that's a psychological reality. It's not a moral failing. It just means that our systems, they are starting to break down because of all the stress that we've had. And it's an alarm sign.
Mhm,
Like I said, even when we suffer burnout and close to burnout, especially in the security industry, it's one of the biggest health issues that we have. People that maintain social media accounts, content creators, people that manage these accounts,
mhm,
companies and owners and leaders and corporations that use these things, as well as the customers that they work with. Everybody gets impacted by these things over time. And burnout, I think the studies that are ranging between 82 to 85% of all adults suffer at least one version, one bout of burnout. Most of these adults suffer multiple ones.
mhm,
And sometimes these burnout situations, they lead to that failure of empathy. And that's important, especially with
mhm,
tragic incidents like this. Once you have these tragic incidents and it starts to spiral, there are people on various different sides that need to maintain that control and grounding, and it makes it difficult when you don't have that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it just becomes you're on autopilot. You're just in a state of reactive response
Yeah,
instead of a grounded response. It's just your body is in a state of just reacting to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that's coming.
right.
And it's hard to find your center.
Exactly. So that's the reason why we're talking about that. It's hard to find your center. That's an important aspect that you just said. So, what we want to do today is we want to offer something different. We want to talk about a framework of self regulation that actually supports your nervous system so you can stay grounded even when the world presses in on you. And we'll do some exercises later on towards the end of this to help you with sound and with the drums, the buffalo drums. Beautiful thing, by the way. Everyone will be able to hear that later on when we're almost done with the session. I hope everyone stays
Yeah,
until the
I
end.
can't wait.
Yeah. So let's start off with, before we move on, just take a breath with us along, close our eyes and just focus for a minute and then just breathe in and breathe out. Slow and steady. Just breathe in and breathe out. One more time, a little bit slower, breathing in through our nose and breathe out through the mouth slowly. You don't need to fix anything now. Just notice how that tension leaves your body. And those 3 breaths, they don't sound like much, but they really change your state quickly. And these are the things that I just like you to notice. Notice your feet that are on the floor. And when you breathe in, that your chest rises. And when you breathe out, that it's falling. And just notice the tension, that you're here, that you're alive, and your nervous system can be resourced, it can be reset, it can be revitalized. So if nothing else from this podcast, I'm hoping more, those 3 breaths each day, in the morning and in the evening, they help a lot, especially in a time like this. Regardless of who you are, if you're the people, just normal people like you and I that are consuming the news, if you're somewhere on the lines of all this stuff that's going on, remember to breathe in and out. And I'm talking to everyone here. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your views are. But taking those 3 breaths in and out, reset your nervous system, and just get rid of some of those negative emotions and think logically, find your humanity, your sympathy for other people, how we're connected. I think it's a very important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things that happen internally, like from that shooting that we all witnessed in Minneapolis, is our alarms go off inside of our body and we start thinking, danger, this is scary, right? We look at the world now through that lens. Engagement. We want to understand. We want to make sense of this. We need to make sense of this. We just need to understand. And then the sense of responsibility. We care about our lives. We care about this lifetime. What is our responsibility in all of this? And then exhaustion as well. We just feel like we can't keep feeling all of this because it just seems the hits just keep coming. um, our nervous system sign in to all of this without permission and without skills to downregulate. We get stuck in states of chronic stress, and that's burnout.
Yeah.
So the things that help is not stuffing the emotions, not pretending all is just fine, and not pushing pain aside.
Right. Let me focus on that second
Yeah.
sentence, not pretending that all is fine. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're not saying is there's a difference between focusing in on thinking positive and ignoring reality. So when we say not pretending all is fine, we're also saying, reality is happening, the things and events are happening around you, but recognizing them and processing them is what every adult, every person, every human being does. But there's also a choice that we have in focusing on positive things, because the negative things, we don't want them to get to us in a way where we can no longer respond in an organized and a logical manner. And sometimes that's really important. So that's what we're kind of saying here as well. We're not saying don't be emotionless, don't ignore reality, but don't pretend all is fine, but still try to find a way to think positive as positively as possible, right?
Yeah, there's that balance. And again, it's about the nervous system regulation and a way to bring the internal state back into balance so that stress doesn't become chronic exhaustion is finding that nervous system balance and regulation.
Right. And that's an interesting thing that you're saying, that regulation and chronic exhaustion. How do we recognize that? How do we work with these topics? So there are 3 simple ways that we can talk about today for everyday regulation. And they're not because I'm saying that they're good. They're actually rooted in evidence and not just in motivation, right? So the first one is body awareness. So just start by noticing where you feel tension throughout your body, in your shoulders, in your neck, in your head, your jaw, your shoulders, your belly.
Hmm.
When you notice where that tension is, then you take that power away from it simply by saying, okay, well, I've got tension on my shoulders. I've got some tension in the back of my neck. Um, I've something's wrong with my stomach, or I feel a little bit tense. My breathing is a little bit shallow. The second thing is then breath practice, and even something small like a 2-minute intentional breath. Slowly breathing in through the nose. We'll start that again, and then even slower through the mouth. One more time, in through the nose. And out through the mouth, slowly. You notice when you do this, just these 2 breaths and 3 breaths, it signals the nervous system that you're safe. And you can do this anywhere you need to and want to. And I would suggest doing that, especially if you're in a situation where you need to be focused. I don't care where it is. I've had experience doing this before, whether on dives where I was preventing from getting scared because then I used too much air, or you're skiing down a mountain and it's very, very icy and it's very steep, and just taking that breath and breathing in and out and just saying, okay, I'm good, I'm safe, I got this, I recognize this, I'm in an environment, I can do this, I have the skills to do this, to come out in one piece. The third part of that is that grounding attention. So you just look around you, and you pick out a color. Like, for instance, I see a blue book, or I have my black buffalo drum. A texture, I can feel the drum.
I have my little Pooh Bear.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And touch the Pooh Bear, just touch it in the materials and feel that on your skin.
Mm.
You know, Anchor your awareness in the present, in the now, not the imagined future of what is coming, but right now. So the color and the texture, you engage your senses to touch that and to bring you back into, the now. None of these erase the pain of human events, but they help your system to pause for a second, to regain equilibrium, that balance before it spirals into burnout. And I think that's important. It's important for a lot of people, especially folks that are in very high stressful situations. And for instance, if I could talk to people, I've done this before, like I've done Tai Chi, karate, and different types of martial arts and training, stuff like that. I've worked with different types of people from different walks of life, from law enforcement to soldiers and everything else. And some of the things I even tell them is it's important to focus in on these breaths, because when you are somewhere engaged and you're wearing a uniform, or you have weapons, or you have these types of things, our responsibility is to breathe in and out, because we need to be focused. We need to be in the moment and remember that our responsibility is to protect human life. And we need to protect the things that, we swore to uphold and protect. And those things are very important. So whoever's listening to this, if you happen to be one of those people that have those uniforms in these situations, take a breath in and out. Breathe in and out. It means that you're strong. It means that you're a leader. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you can control your emotions and you can think clear. And we need you to think clear, whoever it is, whether you're on that side of the fence or you're on a different side of the fence, whether you're protesting or whether you're having these emotions, take that breath and ground yourself. It'll give you a lot better options. So, yeah.
That's very good advice. And another reminder is that we're all not just these individuals with isolated nervous systems. We're all connected through shared humanity, through shared stories, through shared grief, and collective emotional responses.
Hmm.
When someone like Renee is taken way too soon, it ripples. It ripples out into the collective, and these ripples can deepen the burnout that we're all already experiencing. It creates more anxiety, it creates shock in people far from the scene, even
Yeah.
across countries.
Yeah.
I know one of my favorite bands did a dedication to her. It's a European band on their tour with one of their songs just last week. So when you see things like that, you really realize how we're all connected and how much impact one life has given the whole world. And it's a moment for us to pause and to really reflect. Um, and it helps to deepen the compassion that we can give our bodies and give us space to process and to not overload.
Right.
It's our shared responsibility to not numb to the world, nor to burn out from it, but to stay regulated enough so that we can care.
Right. Yeah, and that's an important point. I mean, especially in the security world, I've done a lot of trainings on military installations and for law enforcement and stuff like that. And I have made a lot of friends with people from all walks of life, and that's a blessing because it gives us the perspective to think in someone else's shoes. I think
Absolutely.
one of the topics, if you compare that to the shamanistic principles, you talk about changing or slipping into the power animal that you have. So there's shape shifting. And I think the concept of shape shifting translates to the modern day definition of understanding people being in their shoes.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
You know, and before, whether it's a power animal that you're trying to understand, and a lot of different native tribes, you would dance your power animal to be connected with them. And I think in this
Mhm.
case, it's important to be connected and be in the shoes of different people so that it expands our views. I mean, sympathy, compassion, it starts with each one of us. And the way that
Mhm.
we get there a lot easier is through the regulation, through the breathing exercises, through trying to, okay, here's the energy. Let's focus that energy on something that's positive, more compassionate and love. I'm not saying that you can do that every second, but we try to focus that energy in a very specific, concerted, and focused manner to not be part of the problem, to be part of the solution. Sometimes I think, the extreme solution is if you could hug someone that that maybe is on the other side that seems to be a little bit aggressive and give them, break that record so that they can no longer be aggressive. That would be an awesome thing. I mean, I've had that on many different instances where I was about to get into a fight with someone, and rather than use the martial arts that I used, which would create a lot of damage, I wanted to find another way. And that other way, that part of my journey was to try to convert that in a way that's much more positive. Because if I can be friends with someone that may be my enemy and I can convert that into something that makes much more sense, then I not only help them, I help myself. I don't focus on that
Mhm.
negative energy and I convert that. And those are the things that I love to look for and like to try to focus in on. So, if this episode resonates with you, if your nervous system feels tired or raw or stretched way too thin, there's no shame in seeking deeper support. Actually, leadership is understanding these things and having the courage, the dignity, and the self respect to know when to ask someone for help. And I think guys are notoriously bad at this. And I think that's something that has to change. I talk to a lot of different folks. Um, and the leader is the person that can understand, what are their strengths, but more importantly, what are their weaknesses or what are their challenges, and how can we bring in those subject matter experts or people that can help us in a non-judgmental way to get to have a better reality, to have a better solution to things rather than being aggressive or just burned out and just sitting there on our own. It's not something I think that makes a lot of sense. If we can change that, that's something that is really good because we can include other people and have that help. And that's a good sign of leadership, powerful leadership. The heroes are the ones that are not afraid to ask, not the ones that never say anything and crumble on the side and just let themselves, vegetate or whatever. That's not a hero to me.
Mhm.
So sometimes what helps is more than a podcast episode. It's more of a connection, right? So presence is
Yeah.
important,
Mhm.
guidance is important, and that's why we offer these dedicated spaces for regulation and renewal. Whether that's through one-on-one sessions or immersive retreats or people who want to move over from overwhelm to restoration through these podcasts. Um, we're not trying to teach you right now how to reset your nervous system completely because that's something that's best done in a focused and supported space. So, but we do offer a bridge. And from where you are to that deeper regulation and resilience, that's one of the goals of that, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and we'd also like to mention if you are enjoying these podcasts, please like, subscribe, and share out with others.
right. Yeah. Sharing is caring, I think. Didn't the Care Bears say that sharing is caring or something?
A wise bear once said that.
Ah,
Maybe it
which,
was Winnie the Pooh. I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe. Yeah, Pooh Bear. Yeah, maybe it was Pooh Bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll start drumming in a few seconds, but be gentle with yourself and be present for
Hmm.
others if you can. We're all in this together. And with that, if you'd like to join me for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to start drumming, and I hope that you guys enjoy that. So let me just set
Hmm.
my clock real quick to 5 minutes, and then I'll start with the drumming. So, and this is the buffalo drum.
How
So,
exciting.
so just sit back and enjoy yourself, and just listen for a few minutes.
was great, Mike. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Hope you
I,
enjoyed
I
it.
like the vibrating sound that that drum makes.
Yeah, the buffalo drum is something really special.
It is very cool. It took me a couple minutes to kind of like tune in. And then once I was there, I was in.
Yeah. Yeah, I was I have to be careful that I don't fall asleep. So, yeah. All right. So, I'm Mike Goedeker, the founder and creator of the Silver Crow Method and Social Network Shaman. And
I'm Melanie Stewart. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Take care of yourselves and your nervous system today. And thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us.
right, like and subscribe on YouTube when you see this there, but also more importantly, like and subscribe on Instagram and on our Facebook group, which is there. Join us anytime. We'd love to have you there. The more, the merrier. And we talk about topics like this, about different aspects of the medicines that we share, and we're looking forward to it. Whether you're corporate leaders, whether you're in a business setting, whether you're folks that are practitioners, whether you want to learn more about how to use these different techniques to help you and reset your nervous system, you're always welcome to join us. We'd love to have you. With that, thanks a lot. Stay regulated, reset your nervous system, and give yourself better options. Until then.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.